Deep Dive Gaming.
Welcome back to Deep Dive Gaming. I am the Mariner, and this is Fallout 4 with Sim Settlements 2. First of all, I want to start with an apology for being away. July was dealing with a personal injury and recovering from said personal injury, so I'm better now enough that I can start making videos again. Also during July, we had some updates from King Gath for Sim Settlements 2, including the HQ 2.0 patch. We have that to look forward to. During my recovery, I went through the entirety of the Sim Settlements 2 quest line, investigated the settings for the mod in more depth, and planned out some talking points for the future of the series. Second of all, we are going to go back through the Sim Settlements 2 and workshop framework settings to highlight some of the changes that have occurred with the recent patches. It's been a lot since my first Sim Settlements 2 and workshop framework settings video. I know more now, so we're going to take a look and see what that looks like. Sim Settlements 2 gameplay. So you can see right off the bat, some of these are pretty much the same. Assignment requirements, auto assignments. We know assignment requirements means that for a settler to be assigned to a plot, he has to meet the requirements for said plot, i.e. intelligence or perception or agility. Auto assignment is still here. We know what these do. We know what most of these do. And last time I talked about involvement settings. This is the global setting for settlements, but we're going to dig into the individual settings or local settings rather, for each settlement, because some of that has changed a little bit. Some things are now default that didn't used to be. Dig into that a little bit here in a moment. Self-power objects. While I was in recovery and I was playing through Sim Settlements 2, I learned that self-power objects in the city plan is one way to resolve challenges that are there. If you want the extra challenge of doing electrical maintenance, like if your settlements decide to just stop producing, or the power objects just stop transmitting, you can go through and de-wire and find all those problems. I've done it. I know how to do it. Probably be showing you guys some of that in a future video. But if you want to save yourself a hassle, make sure you turn this off for city plans. Otherwise, you'll be back. Let's see. What else do we have that's changed or that I know more about? I learned about operating costs. So let's talk about that really quick. This is another thing that I learned through my playthrough that can get pretty obnoxious. One missing thing, if you're doing a components playthrough in Sim Settlements 2, and you have this on, you're going to be running around finding things just to fill operating costs, because inevitably your industry plots will not be able to keep up. They can't keep up with building plots, let alone keeping up with the operating costs. So again, if you don't want a headache, turn this off. If you like the extra challenge, if you like to torture yourself, you can leave that on. Be prepared to be paying these out of pocket though, and that's what these settings do. They allow you to do that. For fun, I had a brief playthrough where I wanted to see if I could play without paying costs from my inventory or workbench, and I had the other things turned off too, and it seemed to work out. I had a lot of resources in the end, but that was like an easy playthrough just to see what that looked like, and I didn't have as much fun with it as I did. Adding a little bit of challenge I think is good, but just taking away everything that makes this mod fun doesn't make it fun. Who'd have thought? Okay, so let's move on down here. What else did I learn? Oh, this is new. This is something that I didn't run into until recently. During attacks on settlements, apparently ASAM sensors can be destroyed, which makes it impossible to interact with a plot to do any sort of upgrades, resets, or anything like that. So you have to use an ASAM sensor to repair an ASAM sensor. And if you don't have one, well, that particular plot's dead. I mean, it works, but you can't do anything with it. So this again is a difficulty challenge setting that you can choose to leave on or off. I also learned junk storage requiring defense means that you will constantly be short of defense. You'll think you've got enough, you'll walk away from the settlement, you'll come back a little bit later, and your defense is low. And when your defense is low and you have settlement plots that require defense, then all that goes for naught. So this is something to keep in mind. I got to the point in my playthrough during my recovery period that there are just too many levels of difficulty to just have them all. If there's always going to be stuff going wrong, there's always going to be stuff you're going to be short on. So my opinion is pick and choose the things you want to care about and the things you don't want to care about. And then come in here when you start a new playthrough, turn off the things that you don't want to care about. Just some friendly advice from your friendly mariner from Friendly Deep Dive Gaming. Agriculture water requirement. Now, okay, so disasters is something that's just been introduced with HQ 2.0, and I have not experimented with this yet. I barely got HQ missions finished before I started in on this, so I didn't have time to let my HQ sit, let it develop, let disasters develop, and see what happens. Staff messes, that I think I might have left on just to see what it did, because that one doesn't seem to impact anything other than the appearance of the place. Infestations, if you've ever played Fallout Shelter, then you kind of know what at least these two look like. I'm guessing. Someone can post in the comments if it's nothing like Fallout Shelter. Otherwise, I'm going to assume it's like Fallout Shelter. Desertion is something that I can also guess based on what I'm reading there at the bottom. But it takes a lot of work just to get people into the HQ who actually will contribute to the HQ environment. Being under threat of one of them leaving is another level of difficulty that I didn't feel like dealing with. Diseases. Now, I want to talk about this really quick because I did learn a couple things. First off, cellular diseases stack. Cellular diseases do also wear off over time. So if you want to leave disease on, want to just wait out some of the early diseases because you don't have disease cures or anything to help prevent disease, you're more than likely going to be okay with time. These will wear off and your cellars will get back to work. Incapacitation, however, means that the number of diseases that they've got have made it so that they can no longer work, and you end up with bodies lying around everywhere. I don't mean death. I mean they all curl up into a ball and just sort of lie there. I had one settler walk up to the hospital, sit down in front of it, and just, that was it. She looked sick. She walked up like she was sick. She sat down like she was sick, and she stayed there. I didn't see her get back up again, and I don't think I tried to use a disease cure on her, and it said it was an unknown disease. If you have incapacitation on and you get to that point, you can have a lot of settlements with a lot of people just lying around because they can't work. And if you have this on, those people eventually just die. I leave this off because, again, you have a hard enough trouble getting settlers to begin with. No point letting them die. Daily spending limit by HQ. These are the HQ settings. I'll go into these from what I understand, but again, I didn't get a chance to really play with them. I didn't really get a chance to learn too much about them. At some point in this run-through of Sim Settlements 2 series, we will get into this stuff. But we got to get to the HQ first, and that's a long way down the road. We finally just got Who Can ASAM finished. Let's move on to Immersion. I think most of this is the same. And then one last thing I want to talk about in this section is visitors and max visitors. If you're looking for settlers to go to HQ, you might want to leave this off for a while until you've got what you need for HQ, because you could have random people in your settlement and go, why can't I scan you? Why can't I assign you to HQ? It's because they're a visitor. And if you're in the menu to transfer people around and you can't see that they're a visitor, and it gets a little annoying after a while. NPCs, I think that's pretty much the same. Recruitment is the same. Upgrade. All of this, I believe, is the same. Usability, again. I've learned something new, though. Autoplays foundations and autoplays power poles. Go ahead and let that sit on, because if you lay down a power pole, it looks super goofy if there aren't any foundations. You can change the foundations easily enough, but you sort of want to see the foundation just so that it doesn't look like the game is broken. Autoplays power poles is the opposite, however. I find that the default power pole that's put down doesn't... I almost always end up changing it to something else. And that means I have to remove the one that's already there. So, I mean, if you're fine with the default, you can leave that on. If you want to have more power over what gets put, turn it off. And then settlers choose more classes. Yeah, this is one of those cases where if you have an add-on that's made for a certain person, the no random settlers will not be able to take it. Only that certain person will be allowed to have that be assigned to that settlement. Or its building class, I should say. And then rejected donations. I found this one handy if you're donating to a settlement to help get it built faster. So here's a thought I've had, and you guys can comment below if this is a good idea or not. On a harder playthrough, turn off automatically pay from inventory, automatically pay from workbench. What you have is a city planner's desk with a donation. Yeah, I'll actually show you that really quick. So, see this safe right here? That's how you donate. You click on that, you can give them supplies or caps. It's been a while. I may have covered this already. But, in any case, my theory is, if you want to do super hard or reasonably hard playthrough of Sim Settlements 2, you can collect scrap and then donate to the settlement. What this does then, let me get back to it, sorry. What this does is if they don't have enough storage to keep the scrap that you're donating, you have two options. It gets dumped into the workbench, where it should probably be going, or you take it back. Now, unfortunately, you have to grab it from the workbench and bring it over to the city planner's desk to do the donation. But if you set the rejected donations back to you and you're over encumbered, you're going to have a long trek back to the workbench to put that stuff back. So use this. Store workbench. Simplest way to go. I look forward to the day where you can just click a button and it pulls from the workbench. Like you have a workbench add-on thing for the city planner's desk that you can click to select what you want to donate, click the button, and it goes into the city planner's desk, and then you get informed whether or not there's enough room or not, and give it back. Seems like something that should be already there. If someone's knows about that, let me know in the comments. Give me the name of the mod, I'll go get it. Last few things here. Terraform grading autoplays. This is like you put a dirt plot. This is the grading around the dirt plot. I usually leave all of these on, and then I found that 30 seconds work. I haven't tried 15 seconds. Like you can go all the way down to 5. 30 seconds seems like a good compromise. Usually it ends up being faster than that. But there can be sometimes where you're like unsure if it's actually going to happen. So I started using 30 seconds. Whoops. Oh no. Back down to the bottom, you. Okay. Town meeting behavior we've covered. This one's self-explanatory. Demolition effects. on or off. If you're running Chapter 2 past 2.0, 2.1 something, they've got SS2 extended, and they've also learned that that is a plugin that you need to make sure is enabled. So say you're in Vortex and you're installing SimSettlements 2, you're doing an update, or you're switching profiles, you're coming back to your profile with the SimSettlement 2 add-on mod installed. Check your plugins, make sure SS2 extended is turned back on. Sometimes it won't automatically turn itself back on. I've run into that a couple of times. But I think we're done. Yep, I believe we are done. Respec build limit is still not functional. This seems to only apply if you're building, but it could also be affecting your city plan build, and I'll give you a reason for that in just a second, because that's the next thing we're going to go into is the workshop framework updates for SimSettlements 2. Most of these are still the same. Most of these settings are still good. These are now default off. Assign beds, assign defenses, assign food, which is good. We previously had to come in and turn those off on our own, which made difficulty, so I'm glad Kingath fixed that. I don't think there's anything else here, whoopsie, to talk about. No, most of this stuff is if you're running Workshop Framework without SimSettlements 2. I want to talk about some things in the tools, though. So we have these settlement things. Claim all settlements, that's the time saver. Clean up misplaced items. I haven't needed to do this one. What I want to really focus on is this remote settlement recovery menu. So I had a case in my playthrough in July where I could not approach Sanctuary. If I stepped 1 foot into Sanctuary's territory, I had to crash to desktop. And it was very annoying. I ended up burning down Abernathy, burning down Red Rocket, and then once I did finally get into Sanctuary, burning it down as well, because there was something wrong with that city plan, or with the power stuff going on, the power grid in there, that was causing crash to desktop. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. What I ended up having to do is remove a separate mod. It wasn't until I removed that I could get into Sanctuary. So, that is being worked on from what I understand. This solves that, however. If I had known about this, I probably would have tried this first. But if you can't get into a settlement to reset the power grid, like you get advice to go in there and run a repair power grid tool. This one, in fact. But you can't get into the settlement to do it. Remote settlement recovery menu is what you want. Enough said here. I think we've covered these things. We know what they do. If you don't know what they do, I recommend watching a previous video or asking in the comments, and I can come back in a future video and update these, give you some information on these. So the next phase of this video, actually I think I'm going to have to call it here. So I'm over the time I set for myself to do this. So I'll be doing another video. I'll record another video for the second installment of this return to YouTube episode, and cover local settings for city plots, because there's some things there that I want to look at. So I do recommend you go watch Kingath's videos, the patch notes, the news, his Let's Play streams, especially the Q&As at the end. Some good, valuable information. I invite you to ask questions in the comments down below. There's also the SimSettlements 2 forum. There's the SimSettlements 2 wiki. I'll try and link all of that in the description. And I also want to do a little bit of plugging. So I have a Twitch stream, twitch.tv/deepdivegaming. And in that stream, I am playing Fallout 4 with the SimSettlements 2 mod. And we explore and build. And we do the SimSettlements 2 quests to find bugs or to solve problems. We answer questions in the chat, and I play Fallout 4 and build with Sim Settlements too. So I invite you to come watch. Come watch, come follow. That is Monday through Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern Time on Twitch. I'll finish up with a couple quick notes. I have plans to make videos for other games. I'll be starting on that soon. I'm going to hold off on what the game title is for the next series for now, because I have to do a little bit of work to set up to make sure that I can do it the way I want to. And finally, special thanks to King Gath and Company for Sim Settlements 2. Keep up the great work, guys. And final note, please like and subscribe here on YouTube. We're over 50 subscribers, and I want to get to over 100. But that's something that I can't do by myself, so I ask for your grace and favor, and like my videos, subscribe to my videos. Let's hit that 100 mark. But until then, enjoy Fallout 4 with Sim Settlements 2. Bye-bye.